We're here with Casey with Alpha Rev, one of my favorite bands, by the way.
Oh, really?
Love
Awesome.
your music, it's so great.
Thank you.
And Logan Lynn from Trillium Family Services. We're talking about mental health, and it's so wonderful, Casey, because we talk to so many bands that have a mild connection to mental health advocacy, but you have a major connection.
Oh, for sure. I first learned of mental health when I found out my father was bipolar. And later I had lost him to suicide when I was 19, and then I lost my brother to suicide when he was 20, or when I was 23. So I became became a new journey for me to find out what is this thing about mental health, because mental illness, as you know, can completely wreck your world.
Sure.
Without treatment or education and what it is.
So you're an artist, and you've had this profound loss, trauma, if you will, in your background. How do you envelop that in your music? How do you cope with that loss through your music?
Well, music can be a very therapeutic thing, so I think it's important to be, for me, it was important to be honest about how I felt, and to get through the first 5 years, 6 or 7 years maybe, I was the emotions were fairly dark coming out. But it's only been recently that hope has now started to kind of come through my last couple of records, and you start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel in a good way. You start seeing things that you can do now for your own mental health, for other people's mental health, to hopefully save some lives that exist today.
How do you practice self-care? What do you do?
So I might be slightly manic, slightly bipolar, because it runs in my family. So, nothing is on or off. You can have a little bit of something.
Sure.
And so, I take this particular type of magnesium that helps me sleep and helps me not get incredibly manic. I try to eat very little sugar, and I watch my caffeine, and those things have really helped me. Exercise, those kinds of things help me stay in a range where I haven't needed any medication yet. So
I also read that you felt like the depression lifted for you when you fell in love, and I just met your beautiful family. They're so gorgeous. Do you practice active loving to make sure that that's part of your mental health treatment plan?
Oh, for sure. We get so self-involved, so part of what helps me stay healthy is to focus on my wife and my kid and my other, if I serve for Austin Child Guidance Center, and so some other things that help me get out of myself and not stop thinking about my own problems and start thinking about other people's problems, and that helps.
How close do you think we are to the point where people will view mental health like any other kind of health, that we can start talking about it? I mean, it's rare, to tell you the truth, that a musician like yourself is so open, so incredible.
Well, I think we're getting closer. It's a stigma just like HIV and AIDS had, and still has to some degree, but mental health is finally, people are seeing that even whether you have a mental illness or not, that we're getting into health.
Yeah.
So our mental health becomes something that, almost a trend, that now we're starting to see how are we monitoring that and how are we maintaining it, and which is a good thing for people like you and me who have maybe waved the flag for a while and seen a big stigma against people don't want to talk about depression or suicide, or we want to sweep that under the rug. So we're trying to keep that from happening, which is awesome.
Man, thank you, and thanks for your music. You guys continue to push the limits of what I think is fantastic music. I love Alpha Rev. Thanks again for the time.
Thanks for having me.